A faint glow pierces the endless darkness of a prehistoric night. The landscape is unfamiliar yet hauntingly alive, a wilderness of shadows stretching endlessly under a sky devoid of human-made lights. Somewhere, far in the distance, the jagged silhouette of a mountain catches the shimmer of starlight, standing as a silent witness to an epoch long forgotten. A crackling fire, small and fragile, pushes back the darkness, its warmth a temporary reprieve against the cold fingers of a hostile world. Beside it crouches a lone figure, hunched and alert, muscles taut with the unspoken tension of survival. Every rustle in the underbrush, every distant howl, sends a shiver down the spine, not of fear alone, but of raw, instinctual calculation. Life is fragile here. Death waits patiently, indifferent and eternal. This is the dawn of mankind. Millions of years ago, in a time when the earth was unrecognizable, humans were not masters but intruders, learners in a world that demanded cunning, courage, and relentless perseverance. Every step taken, every decision made, was a gamble between life and oblivion. There were no maps, no guides, only the ancient whispers of instinct and the faint sparks of curiosity that would, in time, shape the trajectory of our species. This early human does not yet know that they carry within them a spark, the seed of ingenuity, the faint pulse of something greater than mere survival. The fire flickers, casting shadows that dance across the rugged features of the figure's face. Their eyes, wide and unblinking, scan the darkness. They are alert, aware of every sound, every movement. Hunger gnaws quietly at their stomach, a constant reminder of the day's hunt that yielded just enough to survive. Yet hunger is not the only threat. The night holds predators whose teeth gleam like knives in the moonlight. The wind carries scents unfamiliar and dangerous. This is a world where one misstep can mean the difference between life and death. Yet, even in the midst of danger, there is awe. Above, constellations will silently, ancient guides unknown to the human mind. The earth itself seems alive, breathing through the rustle of leaves, the distant crash of a waterfall, the soft sigh of the wind across the plains. It is a world of extremes, brutal and beautiful, merciless and majestic. And in this world, survival is more than instinct. It is courage. It is observation. It is the first glimmers of creativity, the understanding that a sharpened stone, a controlled flame, a group huddled together against the cold, can bend the odds ever so slightly in one's favor. But survival alone is never enough. The night is alive with possibilities, some seen, some hidden, some yet to arrive. The figure at the fire senses it, a change in the air, a tension in the silence. Movement among the trees, subtle but deliberate, betrays the presence of something or someone else. A rival tribe? A predator stalking with patient calculation? Or perhaps the first faint whispers of danger from within, the fragile human bonds that, though a source of strength, can just as easily unravel. And so, as the fire dances and shadows twist across the figure's tense form, the stage is set. The audience is drawn into a world that is at once alien and deeply human. Questions stir in the mind: how did our ancestors face such relentless adversity? What choices did they make when every moment teetered on the edge of life and death? And above all, what lessons do the faint sparks of ingenuity and courage from these distant nights hold for us today? The camera would linger on the fire's fragile glow, the figure's watchful gaze, the dark shapes of the wild beyond. In this silence, heavy with anticipation, the story begins, not with triumph, but with uncertainty, vulnerability, and the haunting question that will thread through every chapter to come: how did life endure in a world that demanded everything and gave nothing in return? The earth millions of years ago was a living, breathing paradox, a world of extraordinary beauty and relentless peril. Vast landscapes stretched unbroken, untouched by human hands, where towering trees swayed like silent sentinels and rivers carved paths through continents that had yet to take their modern shape. Volcanoes erupted with terrifying regularity, spewing rivers of molten rock and clouds of ash that blotted out the sun for weeks at a time. Glaciers advanced and retreated with relentless precision, sculpting mountains, valleys, and plains. Storms could rise without warning, turning the sky into a canvas of lightning and fury. In this world, nothing could be taken for granted. Every breath, every movement, every decision carried the weight of life or death. Amid this chaos, the earliest humans struggled to exist, a fragile presence in a planet that cared little for their survival. They were not yet masters of fire or builders of shelters, they were observers, learners, and survivors. Their eyes scanned the horizon for predators lurking in the shadows, saber-toothed cats, giant hyenas, and packs of wolves that hunted with a precision honed by millions of years of evolution. Their ears caught the faintest rustle of leaves, the distant crash of rocks tumbling down a cliff, the heavy footsteps of beasts that dwarfed them in strength and speed. Every encounter was a test, every day a precarious negotiation with forces far beyond human comprehension. But the world's dangers were not confined to predators alone. Disease swept silently through the land, invisible and unstoppable, claiming lives without warning. Drought could desiccate a river overnight, leaving entire groups scrambling for water. Starvation stalked them as mercilessly as any predator, forcing early humans to venture further, riskier, into unknown territory for sustenance. The climate itself was unpredictable, swinging from scorching heat to bone-chilling cold with little notice. Survival demanded ingenuity as much as instinct. Those who failed to adapt vanished quietly into the annals of prehistory, leaving only fossils to hint at their existence. Yet, it was in these extremes that the spark of human potential began to emerge. Early humans observed patterns in nature, the seasonal migration of animals, the cycles of fruiting plants, the hidden dangers in the wind and water. These observations, once acted upon, became tools for survival. A sharpened stone, a strategically placed fire, a coordinated hunt, each innovation extended the fragile boundary between life and death. Suspense builds as we watch these first experiments with intelligence unfold, knowing that each success is a temporary victory and every mistake can be fatal. The emotional world of these early humans was as complex as the environment around them. Fear was constant, but so too was curiosity, the desire to understand, to anticipate, to control, however slightly, the forces that threatened them. Within small groups, bonds formed that would define the very essence of humanity. Mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, allies and rivals, they depended on one another, argued, protected, and occasionally betrayed. Trust and betrayal, loyalty and jealousy, love and survival, all played out under the unyielding canopy of a world that demanded everything from those who dared to live. And yet, even as danger pressed close, moments of wonder existed. The first sunlight glinting off a river, the sound of rain drumming on leaves, the flicker of bioluminescent insects in a cave, these glimpses of beauty offered brief respite from the constant struggle. For a fleeting moment, life felt precious, fragile, and awe-inspiring. These were the seeds of imagination, of creativity, of a consciousness that began to see the world not only as a threat but as a place to be known and, eventually, transformed. Suspense grows as the early humans navigate this world of extremes. Their movements are calculated yet cautious. A hunting party stalks prey through thick undergrowth, every rustle threatening an ambush. A storm gathers in the distance, darkening the sky and forcing the group to seek shelter quickly. And in the shadows, unseen eyes follow their progress. Rival groups of humans, competing for scarce resources, lurk on the periphery, their intentions unclear, their actions unpredictable. Survival requires more than physical strength, it requires observation, strategy, and the ability to anticipate dangers both visible and hidden. The stakes escalate as we glimpse the precariousness of life. Every innovation, every clever adaptation, every alliance or betrayal carries consequences. The landscape itself conspires against them, rivers overflow, fires rage through forests, predators hunt with relentless precision. Each challenge leaves the audience with a gnawing question: how could humans endure when the world seemed designed to destroy them at every turn? And what secrets would these survivors carry forward into a future that none of them could yet imagine? By the end of this section, the audience feels the weight of the earth itself pressing down on early humanity. The stage is set for their first triumphs and failures, for the invention of tools, the control of fire, the forging of society. The tension is palpable, the danger is immediate, yet the promise of discovery, adaptation, and resilience simmers quietly beneath the surface. The world is vast, hostile, and beautiful, and our ancestors stand on the edge, poised to take their first steps toward survival, ingenuity, and ultimately, the dawn of mankind. The morning light seeps through the dense canopy, illuminating a world teeming with life and danger. Early humans stir from their fragile shelters, bodies aching from the cold and from nights spent alert to threats unseen. Hunger drives them forward, but it is not the only force shaping their movements. Fear, curiosity, and the instinct to survive guide every step as they venture into the unknown, seeking food, water, and the safety of daylight. Each rustle of leaves or distant roar sets their hearts racing, a reminder that the line between life and death is razor-thin. The hunt is more than a matter of survival, it is a test of intelligence, coordination, and courage. Early humans begin to learn the rhythm of nature, observing patterns in animal behavior, noting the places where prey might congregate, and devising rudimentary strategies to improve their odds. They carry the first sparks of ingenuity in their hands, a sharpened stone, a pointed stick, a crude spear. But innovation brings its own tension. The hunter must judge the moment to strike with precision, balancing hunger against danger. A misstep could invite a predator, or worse, leave the hunter defenseless against the sheer strength of the animals they pursue. Every hunt is a story of life and death. The group moves quietly through the undergrowth, communicating through gestures, whispers, and subtle signals only they understand. Their prey, wary and acutely aware of its surroundings, senses the hunters before they strike. Tension builds with each step. The hunt is a dance, a delicate interplay of patience, timing, and courage. When a spear is finally thrown, or a trap sprung, the triumph is immediate but fleeting. The fallen prey offers sustenance, but the victory is never guaranteed to last, other threats linger, and the environment remains indifferent to their struggles. Humanity's earliest hunters are not mere animals, they are complex, emotional beings. They experience anticipation, frustration, and elation in ways that transcend instinct. When a hunt succeeds, relief washes over the group, but it is tempered by exhaustion and the knowledge that tomorrow brings the same relentless struggle. Their relationships deepen during these moments of shared triumph and shared risk. Leaders emerge, guided by skill and courage, but they are constantly challenged, their authority contingent on their ability to protect and provide. Social bonds become as vital as physical prowess. Betrayal, envy, and rivalry simmer quietly in the shadows, shaping decisions that can tip the balance between survival and disaster. Yet the hunt is also a lesson in humility. Predators are patient, intelligent, and unrelenting. A stalking cat may circle unseen, muscles coiled for the perfect strike. A sudden stampede of herbivores can crush a careless hunter underfoot. Every step carries uncertainty, every breath could be the last. This constant threat sharpens perception and hones instinct. Early humans learned to read the wind, to sense shifts in sound and scent, to predict patterns of movement in creatures far stronger than themselves. Survival becomes a mixture of calculation and intuition, courage and restraint. Innovation grows under pressure. Early humans experiment with coordinated tactics, flanking, driving animals toward traps, or using fire to corral prey. These small innovations mark the beginnings of strategic thinking and cooperation. Communication becomes critical, and subtle signals, gestures, calls, and glances, develop into early forms of language. Each successful hunt reinforces social cohesion, teaching the value of trust and collaboration. Yet with every step forward comes the shadow of loss, as mistakes are punished immediately by the unforgiving environment. The emotional tension is heightened when tragedy strikes. A misjudged leap, a sudden counterattack by prey, or an unseen predator can turn a moment of triumph into disaster. Families watch as hunters are injured or lost, grief mixing with fear and the cold understanding that survival is never guaranteed. These moments reveal the deep humanity of early humans, their capacity for love, loyalty, and grief. They mourn, but they endure, because the cost of surrender is extinction. Life is precarious, but it is fiercely, stubbornly precious. As the days pass, hunting becomes both ritual and necessity. Patterns emerge, routes that are safe, animals that are predictable, times when prey is vulnerable. Yet unpredictability is always present. A sudden storm can wash away tracks or drive prey into dangerous territory. Other humans, competing for the same resources, may arrive unexpectedly, bringing conflict, theft, or even violence. The tension is constant, the stakes absolute. Each hunt carries the weight of not just feeding the body, but preserving the fragile network of relationships and the very survival of the group. We also witness the first glimmers of foresight. Early humans begin storing meat, fashioning rudimentary shelters, and developing methods to protect themselves against both predators and environmental threats. Tools evolve slowly, yet with profound impact. Sharper stones, hardened spears, and eventually, coordinated hunting strategies provide an advantage that begins to tilt the balance slightly in favor of human survival. These moments of ingenuity are thrilling because they emerge from necessity, desperation, and raw intelligence. They are the earliest proofs of human adaptability, a thread that will weave through millennia to come. Even amidst the danger, small joys and curiosity persist. A successful hunt may be followed by laughter, play, and the discovery of beauty in a living world. Children watch and learn, absorbing not just techniques but the lessons of observation, patience, and cooperation. Every day is a struggle, but it is also an education in resilience and the capacity for innovation. Each new experience plants a seed, foreshadowing the moment when humanity will begin to dominate the world, not through brute force alone, but through intellect, strategy, and social cohesion. And yet, even as victories are celebrated, shadows loom on the horizon. Predators circle, weather shifts unpredictably, and rival groups may appear without warning. No lesson, no innovation, no cunning can guarantee safety. Survival is temporary, and every triumph carries the weight of uncertainty. The audience is left gripping the edge of suspense, knowing that the same hands that now grasp spears could soon be empty, lives snatched by forces both seen and unseen. By the end of this section, the audience understands that early humans were not passive observers of their world, they were active, emotional, strategic participants in a life-and-death drama played out across a hostile landscape. Their struggles, ingenuity, and social bonds are the first steps toward the survival of the species, but every success is shadowed by the lurking threat of failure. The tension carries forward, preparing the stage for the next chapter, the hidden dangers within and without, the ethical dilemmas, and the unforeseen tragedies that will define their fragile existence. The sun hangs low on the horizon, casting long shadows over a world that is as beautiful as it is merciless. The early humans move cautiously through dense forests and across open plains, every step weighed with intention. They are no longer simply hunters, they are survivors navigating a labyrinth of threats, both visible and invisible. The forest around them teems with danger, predators lurk, disease waits unseen, rival groups observe from the edges, and the earth itself is unpredictable. The air is heavy with tension, thick with the scent of possibility and peril alike. It is in these moments that the greatest dangers often emerge not from the wild, but from within the group itself. Hunger, exhaustion, and fear create cracks in social bonds. Leadership is tested with every decision, where to hunt, when to move, whom to trust. Conflicts arise over food, territory, and hierarchy, small sparks that could ignite into violence. Even minor disagreements carry the weight of survival. A wrong decision can jeopardize not just one individual, but the entire group. The tension between cooperation and self-interest is constant, and the early humans must navigate it with instincts sharpened by necessity. Disease stalks silently, invisible but lethal. A sudden illness can decimate a group, and the first humans have no knowledge of medicine, no understanding of hygiene. They watch helplessly as members weaken, fevered and listless, their vitality ebbing away. Fear grips the tribe, not only fear for themselves but the profound terror of helplessness. The death of one can destabilize the entire group, affecting morale, cohesion, and the instinct to cooperate. Every step they take must account for this unseen threat, forcing early humans to make choices that weigh ethics against survival, to care for the weak or prioritize the many, to risk exposure for the sake of a loved one or protect the safety of the group. Predators remain an ever-present shadow. The roar of a distant beast can send the tribe scattering, hearts pounding, every muscle coiled for action. They have learned to track, to hide, to fight, but even the most skilled hunter can be taken by surprise. A sudden movement in the brush, a glint of teeth in the fading light, a shadow crossing their path, every encounter is a reminder of nature's indifference. The suspense of the hunt has transformed into a suspense of existence itself. Life is fragile, temporary, and precious, every heartbeat is a triumph and a gamble. But humans are not merely reacting to the world, they are beginning to manipulate it, ever so slightly. The first defensive strategies emerge: barricades of sharpened branches, temporary shelters built in caves, fires used not only for warmth but as deterrents. Every innovation comes at a cost: time, energy, and the risk of exposing themselves to predators. These early humans begin to understand cause and effect, that their actions can influence outcomes, and that ingenuity may tip the balance between life and death. Yet mastery is incomplete, and the unknown looms large. Competition between human groups adds another layer of danger. Rival tribes, equally desperate and equally clever, may steal food, encroach on territory, or attack without warning. Trust becomes a currency as valuable as food, alliances must be carefully weighed. A misjudgment could lead to ambush, capture, or death. The audience feels the tension escalate as groups navigate not only the landscape but the intricate, unpredictable web of human behavior. Cooperation is essential, but it is fragile, easily fractured by jealousy, envy, or fear. The emotional depth of early humans becomes ever more pronounced. Grief, guilt, and fear are constant companions. The loss of a member to predator or disease leaves scars that are not merely physical. Bonds of family and friendship are tested to their limits. Leaders carry the weight of responsibility, knowing that every choice may result in life or death for those who depend on them. Children observe, learn, and internalize the lessons of trust, fear, and courage. These are formative experiences that shape not only immediate survival but the very evolution of human behavior and society. Environmental threats intensify. Droughts parch the earth, drying rivers and withering plants. Storms rage with sudden ferocity, washing away shelters and food stores. Volcanic eruptions or wildfires can obliterate landscapes in hours, leaving only ash and devastation in their wake. The early humans are forced to adapt quickly, making life or death decisions with incomplete knowledge. The suspense is unrelenting. The audience witnesses the raw struggle between a fragile species and a planet indifferent to its plight. Moral dilemmas emerge as survival becomes more complex. Should a weak or injured member be left behind to save the rest of the group? Is it right to steal from another tribe to feed one's own? Choices are no longer simply instinctual, they carry consequences for social cohesion, survival, and the emergence of early ethical reasoning. These moments of decision, fraught with uncertainty, create dramatic tension that humanizes our ancestors. The audience is left questioning what they would do under similar circumstances, bridging the gap across millions of years. Amidst the darkness and danger, moments of ingenuity shine. The early humans begin experimenting with storage, preserving food in cool caves or covering it with leaves to slow spoilage. They refine tools, learning to craft sharper edges, lighter spears, and rudimentary traps. Fire is controlled not only for warmth but as a protective perimeter. Each advancement is a small victory against the indifference of nature and the encroachment of rivals, but the threat of failure never disappears. Suspense remains, heightened by the knowledge that even these innovations are fragile defenses against a relentless world. The stakes escalate further when tragedy strikes. A sudden predator attack scatters the group, leaving members injured or missing. The tribe faces immediate peril and long-term consequences: food stores are lost, shelters compromised, and trust shaken. Every decision that follows is tense, fraught with the dual pressures of immediate survival and the need to maintain cohesion. The audience feels the suspense rise, sensing that the outcome is uncertain, that even small miscalculations could cascade into catastrophe. By the end of this section, the early humans have been tested by forces both seen and unseen. They have faced rivals, predators, disease, and the unpredictable fury of the environment. Their relationships, their morality, and their ingenuity have all been challenged. The audience is left on the edge of suspense, aware that survival is never guaranteed, and that the story of early humans is one of constant struggle, resilience, and adaptation. The stage is now set for their next evolution, the harnessing of fire as both a weapon and a beacon, a tool that will redefine the boundaries of survival and begin to illuminate the path towards civilization. The first sparks of fire dance across the darkness, fragile yet mesmerizing, illuminating the features of early humans with a warm, flickering glow. Smoke curls upward, carrying the scent of burning wood into the night. For the first time, they are not entirely at the mercy of the elements or predators. This small flame represents not just warmth or light, but a profound shift in the balance between survival and annihilation. The mastery of fire is not instantaneous, it is born of trial, error, fear, and relentless curiosity. Every flicker is a lesson, every failure, a reminder of the thin line between life and death. Early humans approach fire cautiously, instinctively aware of its destructive potential. Flames can warm and protect, but they can just as easily consume and destroy. A careless movement, a misplaced branch, or an overzealous spark could turn sanctuary into inferno. The tension is palpable, the audience senses that each interaction with this elemental force carries the weight of both hope and danger. They are learning a power that will redefine their relationship with the world around them, but the learning curve is steep, and mistakes are punished immediately by nature's indifferent hand. Fire changes everything. Nights that once held predators and fear now offer a fragile sense of security. Early humans begin to gather around flames, huddling for warmth, cooking their food, and observing the world with new eyes. Cooked meat is easier to digest, richer in nutrients, and safer from disease, granting the group not just sustenance but a subtle advantage over those who still rely solely on raw food. Communication flourishes in the glow, gestures and sounds becoming more nuanced, social bonds deepening as shared warmth and light become a crucible for cooperation and trust. Yet mastery of fire is fraught with suspense. A sudden gust of wind can turn a small flame into a roaring inferno, threatening the group and their shelter. Smoke can draw the attention of predators, signaling their presence to the unseen hunters that lurk in the darkness. Early humans are forced to balance caution with the need to innovate, each decision a delicate negotiation between control and chaos. They learn to manipulate fire carefully, feeding it, shielding it, and eventually moving it to create portable light, a skill that requires foresight, patience, and courage. The audience witnesses moments of breathtaking tension. A hunting party returns after a long day, carrying prey too large to manage easily. Fire becomes both tool and weapon. Its glow can be used to frighten predators, corral animals, or even drive rivals away. Yet using it carries risk. Flames could ignite surrounding vegetation, creating danger as immediate as the beasts that prowl the night. Every choice is an exercise in strategy and survival, highlighting the intelligence and ingenuity that will define humanity. Social bonds evolve under the glow of fire. Families gather, sharing stories and observations, transmitting knowledge to younger members. Leadership is reinforced through acts of bravery and skill, as those who understand fire best gain influence within the group. Tensions, while still present, are mediated through cooperation around the flame. Fire becomes a nucleus of civilization, a tool that extends beyond mere survival to the very shaping of human society. Yet every advantage is accompanied by risk, every triumph shadowed by the possibility of disaster. Innovation grows in small, suspenseful increments. Early humans experiment with ways to keep fire alive during the night, learning to smother and reignite embers, to store heat within stones, and to transport flames across distances. The mastery of this element is a gradual process, punctuated by setbacks and small disasters. Each experiment carries suspense because the consequences are immediate. A failure could burn food, destroy shelter, or attract predators, but a success could mean safety, nourishment, and the subtle extension of life. Fire also brings a psychological transformation. Darkness, once absolute and terrifying, becomes a manageable environment. Shadows, flickering and unpredictable, offer lessons in observation and perception. Early humans learned to read movement, anticipate danger, and coordinate responses under the uncertain light. Fear does not vanish, but it becomes a tool rather than a constant oppressor. Suspense now exists not just in the external world, but in the interplay between human ingenuity and the raw, uncontrollable forces of nature. Yet fire does not eliminate danger, it shifts it. Predators learn to adapt, stalking the edges of the light, observing patterns of human behavior, waiting for mistakes. Rival tribes watch from the darkness, perhaps emboldened or terrified by the flickering flames. Tensions flare as groups negotiate territory and resources, testing one another's strategies, intelligence, and courage. The fire that warms and protects also illuminates vulnerability, making every night a theater of both hope and peril. Tragedy and suspense intertwine as the group learns the harsh lessons fire demands. An accidental blaze consumes part of the forest, forcing a rapid evacuation. The hunt goes wrong, a fire-driven strategy inadvertently drives prey toward a dangerous cliff. Early humans are confronted with the consequences of innovation. Success and failure exist side by side, never far from one another. These dramatic moments engage the audience, creating empathy for individuals navigating a world that rewards intelligence but punishes error with brutal immediacy. By the end of this section, fire is no longer a mere tool, it is a symbol of human adaptability and ingenuity. The group has learned, painfully and triumphantly, to wield an element that can both protect and destroy. They are beginning to shape their environment rather than simply react to it, planting the seeds for a civilization that will rely on knowledge, cooperation, and strategy. Yet the audience senses that the mastery of fire is only the beginning. For every problem solved, new threats loom, predators adapt, rivals advance, and nature remains indifferent. The tension carries forward, setting the stage for the next chapter, the emergence of the first communities, social structures, and early forms of cooperation that will redefine what it means to survive. The glow of fire has become a constant companion, illuminating not just the darkness of night, but the growing complexity of early human life. Groups of hunters and gatherers begin to linger longer around shared flames, discovering that survival is no longer only about individual skill, but about cooperation, communication, and trust. The shift from isolated survival to collective existence marks a profound transformation. These early humans are no longer just reacting to the world, they are beginning to shape it together, creating the first fragile social structures that will define the future of their species. Life in these early communities is tense, unpredictable, and at times brutal. Every decision matters. Leaders emerge naturally, often those who demonstrate courage, intelligence, and resourcefulness, but authority is fragile and constantly tested. Rivalries simmer beneath the surface. Jealousy, envy, and ambition can erupt into conflict, threatening the cohesion that the group depends upon for survival. Even as bonds form, the pressure of scarcity, food, water, shelter, forces early humans to weigh loyalty against necessity, cooperation against self-preservation. The tension is unrelenting, a constant reminder that civilization begins not with comfort, but with struggle. The daily routines of these communities are punctuated by calculated risks. Hunting parties must venture further, exploring unfamiliar terrain to secure food. Gatherers must identify which plants are edible, which carry hidden dangers, and which can be stored for future use. Children observe and imitate, learning not only the physical skills needed to survive, but also the social cues, gestures, and hierarchies that guide group dynamics. In these formative moments, early humans develop empathy, patience, and the beginnings of ethical reasoning, skills that are as critical to survival as the sharpest spear or the most enduring fire. Trust is the currency of survival. The weakest members of the group, children, elders, or the sick, depend entirely on the protection of the stronger. Every act of care strengthens bonds, but every betrayal or lapse of vigilance can have immediate, deadly consequences. Suspense builds as the audience watches these delicate social balances, knowing that one wrong decision, a withheld share of food, a failed lookout, a misread signal, can ripple outward, endangering the entire community. Leadership is constantly tested, and with each crisis, the stakes rise. The environment continues to challenge human ingenuity. Seasonal changes dictate movement, forcing groups to follow water sources or migrate to warmer regions. Natural disasters, floods, fires, storms, strike without warning, testing not only physical endurance but group cohesion. Shelter must be improvised, food secured, and protection maintained. In these moments, social structures are forged in fire and fear. Cooperation becomes instinctual, survival depends not only on individual skill, but on the ability of the group to act as a unified, strategic force against a world that offers no guarantees. Early humans begin to develop rudimentary forms of communication. Gestures, vocalizations, and primitive calls convey instructions, warnings, or encouragement. These early signals are the first threads in the tapestry of language, allowing groups to coordinate hunts, organize defenses, and transmit knowledge across generations. Suspense emerges from the limitations of these tools. A misinterpreted signal could result in disaster, a trap triggered too early, a predator approached unknowingly, or a gathering of food missed entirely. Every moment underscores the fragile balance between insight and error. Conflict is inevitable. Resources are scarce, and groups must compete with rival tribes for territory, prey, and water. Encounters can escalate quickly, with threats ranging from intimidation to lethal violence. Early humans develop strategies to navigate these confrontations, balancing aggression with caution, diplomacy with deterrence. These tense interactions test the leadership, cooperation, and moral reasoning of the community. The audience feels the suspense in every step, every choice, knowing that survival is contingent not just on skill, but on social intelligence and foresight. Yet within this tension lies creativity and adaptation. Tools are refined, shelters are reinforced, and fire becomes both a defensive barrier and a gathering point. Communities begin experimenting with rituals, shared meals, simple protective symbols, and practices that strengthen cohesion and morale. These early cultural practices mark the beginning of identity beyond mere survival, the realization that belonging to a group carries meaning, purpose, and hope. Suspense is heightened as these experiments are tested in the harsh crucible of nature. Will they succeed or fail? Can trust endure, or will the pressures of survival shatter the fragile bonds? The emotional stakes are profound. Grief, joy, fear, and pride intermingle in every moment. The loss of a group member to predation or illness leaves an indelible mark, shaping decisions for months to come. Victories, small or large, are celebrated with relief and hope, yet always tempered by the knowledge that the world remains indifferent, and danger is never far. Audience engagement grows as the human drama unfolds. These are not abstract ancestors, but emotional, intelligent beings, whose triumphs and failures echo the struggles that still define our species today. As seasons pass, hierarchies and roles within the community solidify. Leaders who demonstrate courage, wisdom, and foresight are respected, while those who falter are challenged. Division of labor emerges naturally. Some hunt, others gather, others guard, while younger members observe and learn. Suspense builds in the subtle negotiation of power, alliances are tested, decisions debated, and every choice carries the risk of failure. The group's survival depends on the careful balance of authority, cooperation, and adaptability. Yet external threats never disappear. Predators, disease, environmental hazards, and rival tribes constantly remind the group that mastery is temporary and vigilance is eternal. Early humans learn that survival is a continuous process of adaptation, foresight, and resilience. Fire, tools, and social structures are critical, but so too is the ability to anticipate danger, respond to crisis, and navigate the moral complexities of group life. Each challenge, each encounter, each decision contributes to the evolution of society itself. By the end of this section, the audience witnesses the first glimpses of civilization emerging from the crucible of survival. Communities are no longer merely collections of individuals, they are dynamic systems, shaped by cooperation, leadership, and shared purpose. The early humans' ingenuity, social intelligence, and emotional depth have allowed them to endure where strength alone would have failed. But suspense lingers, even the most cohesive group remains vulnerable. Nature is indifferent, predators are patient, rivals are cunning, and the decisions of one individual can ripple outward, affecting the fate of all. The story is far from over. The stage is now set for discoveries and innovations that will define the trajectory of humanity, the secrets hidden in bones, the tools, the strategies, and the cultural foundations that will echo through time. The rise of strategy marked a turning point in the story of early humans, a shift from mere reaction to deliberate planning, where every decision could mean life or death. Imagine a small band of hunters moving silently through the tall grass, their eyes scanning the horizon for movement. The air is thick with tension, a misstep could awaken a predator, a careless sound could ruin days of careful tracking. This was a world where instinct alone was not enough, where intelligence, foresight, and cunning became the ultimate tools of survival. Archaeological evidence tells us of meticulously crafted stone tools, not just for cutting meat, but for fashioning traps, scraping hides, and even digging for roots and water. Each artifact speaks to the patient ingenuity of our ancestors, a silent testament to their ability to plan for the unknown. Hunting itself became an exercise in strategy and collaboration. Groups would coordinate ambushes, driving prey toward concealed members armed with sharpened spears or cleverly set traps. Scenes of these hunts unfold like tense dramas in the imagination. One hunter holds his breath as the animal inches closer, another signals from a distance, their movements synchronized like a deadly dance honed by necessity. It was not merely brute strength that determined success, it was observation, timing, and the ability to anticipate the behaviors of other creatures. And sometimes, even the smallest miscalculation could mean catastrophe, leaving families hungry and tribes vulnerable to the lurking predators that stalked every corner of their world. Yet, strategy was not limited to hunting. Gathering food, storing supplies, and defending territories demanded foresight and cooperation. Tribes learned to observe seasonal patterns, to remember water sources and fruiting trees, and to plan escapes from fire or flood. Evidence of early encampments shows a careful selection of sites that balanced resources and safety. It suggests that these communities were capable of complex decision-making, weighing immediate needs against future risks, a cognitive leap that would define humanity for millennia to come. But with strategy came the unknown dangers of other humans. Archaeologists have uncovered signs of conflict and possible early warfare, a reminder that intelligence could be used for cunning and cruelty as much as for survival. Rival groups might ambush one another, steal resources, or eliminate threats with terrifying efficiency. These discoveries force us to confront a haunting truth: the very qualities that allowed humans to dominate the landscape also made them capable of premeditated violence. In this world, every success was shadowed by potential betrayal, and every clever plan carried the weight of life-or-death consequences. Amid this struggle, personal stories emerge from the fossil and archaeological record, small but vivid glimpses of individual lives. Perhaps a young hunter, barely experienced, fails to notice a predator in the distance, learning a brutal lesson about vigilance. Or an elder, wise in the ways of the land, guides a small child through the dangers of the savannah, passing on knowledge that will determine the child's survival. These imagined narratives give emotional depth to the cold bones and stone tools left behind, transforming them into windows into human courage, fear, and ingenuity. The section closes on an unsettling realization: survival was no longer just about running or hiding. Early humans had begun to play a dangerous mental game, balancing intelligence against instinct, foresight against impulse. They were evolving not just physically, but cognitively, shaping a legacy that would ripple across millions of years. And yet, for all their cleverness, the world remained ruthless and unpredictable, leaving one haunting question dangling in the air: were they evolving intelligence, or simply learning to survive the relentless cruelty around them? Amid the relentless struggle for survival, early humans began to reveal something profoundly unexpected: a spark of creativity, imagination, and a sense of something beyond the immediate fight for life. Cave walls, bones, and primitive artifacts hint at the emergence of symbolic thought, a capacity not merely to survive, but to understand, to communicate, and perhaps even to hope. Imagine a small band huddled in the dim glow of a fire, their faces shadowed by flickering flames, hands smeared with ochre as one among them traces a deliberate pattern on the stone wall. Each stroke is more than decoration, it is a message, a ritual, a record of knowledge. These marks are whispers across millennia, offering glimpses into the minds of humans who were beginning to perceive not only the dangers of the world but also its possibilities. They signal the birth of conscious thought, the first stirrings of abstract reasoning, and the desire to leave a trace of existence that would outlive a single lifetime. Burials and ritual practices provide equally compelling evidence of early symbolic thinking. Some skeletons reveal bodies carefully positioned, sometimes accompanied by stone tools, ornaments, or other grave goods. These gestures suggest that early humans contemplated life and death in ways that went beyond immediate survival. Imagine a grieving mother, a father, or a group of kin carefully tending to their dead, arranging the body with reverence, perhaps speaking words that have long been lost to time. The act of honoring a deceased member of the tribe indicates an early awareness of mortality and possibly an understanding of continuity, of the past influencing the future. These actions, though simple, reveal a depth of emotion, reflection, and empathy, suggesting that even amidst the struggle to survive, early humans possessed a profound inner life. Cave paintings and engravings further illuminate this emergence of culture and consciousness. The images, of animals, hunting scenes, abstract shapes, and symbolic marks, may have served multiple purposes: documentation of hunts, warnings for future generations, or ritualistic significance meant to influence the unseen forces of the world. Yet, the exact meaning of many of these depictions remains a mystery, tantalizingly close yet frustratingly beyond our grasp. Every new discovery invites interpretation but leaves questions dangling. Were these images meant as teaching tools, as prayers, or as a means to record history? Perhaps they were all of these things at once. The ambiguity enhances the suspense, reminding us that the earliest humans were experimenting with communication, struggling to express complex ideas in a visual language that we are only beginning to decode. These creative and symbolic acts were not purely aesthetic, they were intimately tied to survival. Art and ritual reinforced social cohesion, strengthened alliances, and transmitted vital knowledge. Storytelling, likely performed around the fire, would have been a powerful tool to teach young members about hunting techniques, the behavior of predators, or the boundaries of territory. Such narratives would have combined practical instruction with emotional engagement, weaving lessons into tales of danger, triumph, fear, and courage. In this way, art and ritual were more than cultural artifacts, they were mechanisms of adaptation, shaping social intelligence and ensuring the survival of knowledge across generations. Every brushstroke on a cave wall, every careful arrangement of a burial site, contributed to a growing repository of communal wisdom, a shared memory that extended beyond the lifespan of any individual. The development of symbolic thought also allowed early humans to imagine alternatives, to plan and strategize in ways that were previously impossible. The act of representing the world abstractly, through images, marks, or objects, enabled the visualization of potential outcomes. This capacity to foresee consequences, to anticipate danger, and to communicate plans was a cognitive leap that enhanced survival. A hunter could describe the habits of a dangerous predator, a gatherer could convey the seasonal availability of food sources, and a leader could organize a coordinated strategy for hunting or defense. Symbolic thinking, in essence, amplified intelligence, allowing groups to transmit knowledge rapidly, coordinate complex actions, and adapt to new challenges more effectively than instinct alone could manage. Yet, these acts of culture and imagination are layered with mystery and tension. Archaeologists continue to debate the meaning of certain cave symbols, and many artifacts remain unexplained. Some markings appear in deep, inaccessible recesses of caves, suggesting they may have been meant for ritualistic purposes, or perhaps they were secret messages for a select few. The deliberate effort to place these symbols in hidden or difficult-to-reach locations hints at psychological complexity, a desire not only to communicate but also to control knowledge, to influence behavior, or to protect secrets. These enigmas leave us with haunting questions. What knowledge was encoded in these symbols? Were they warnings, prayers, or early forms of law? And how much of this understanding has been irrevocably lost to time? The human mind was also beginning to grapple with abstract concepts such as identity, memory, and belonging. Art and ritual likely fostered a sense of community, reminding individuals that they were part of a larger whole. The act of participating in shared symbolic practices would have reinforced bonds, creating trust and cooperation, and strengthening resilience in the face of environmental and social pressures. Within these intimate gatherings, the seeds of culture, spirituality, and social hierarchy were sown. Every shared story, every communal act of ritual, provided a framework for understanding the world and their place within it, a structure that would support survival both practically and psychologically. Moreover, these cultural innovations carried profound emotional weight. The first humans were not merely reacting to their environment, they were reflecting on it, shaping it, and responding with creativity, fear, reverence, and hope. Cave paintings could inspire awe, instill caution, or commemorate victories. Burials could convey grief, respect, or an attempt to maintain connections across life and death. These acts are profoundly human, bridging the gap between survival and meaning, and reminding us that our ancestors were not only biologically intelligent but emotionally sophisticated. They experienced a range of emotions and developed methods to express, share, and transmit them, an essential element of social cohesion and survival that continues to define humanity today. As we study these symbols, we are confronted with both revelation and ambiguity. Every mark, every artifact, every trace of ritual is a thread in a vast tapestry whose full pattern remains beyond our grasp. These fragments suggest extraordinary creativity and foresight, yet they leave unanswered questions, fueling suspense and curiosity. We are compelled to imagine the lives behind the art, the fear, the joy, the wonder, and the urgent need to survive in a harsh and unpredictable world. What drove them to create these symbols? What knowledge, fears, or strategies were encoded within them? How did these acts of culture influence decisions, survival, and the social fabric of their communities? The answers remain tantalizingly incomplete, ensuring that the story of early symbolic thought retains its mystery and allure. By the end of this exploration, it becomes clear that art, ritual, and symbolic expression were far more than simple pastimes. They were vital instruments of survival, social cohesion, and knowledge transmission. They reveal a depth of thought, emotional sophistication, and cultural complexity previously unimaginable in creatures so long removed from the modern world. These innovations allowed early humans to navigate a dangerous, unpredictable world with creativity, foresight, and shared understanding. And as we peer into the shadowed caves, study the buried bones, and decipher the marks left on stone, we are reminded that these early acts of expression were not mere decoration, they were lifelines, strategies, and testaments to the ingenuity, resilience, and enduring spirit of humanity. Every brushstroke, every ritual gesture, every carefully placed object whispers stories of survival, fear, and hope. They challenge us to see early humans not merely as primitive creatures struggling against the elements, but as intelligent, emotionally complex beings navigating a world filled with peril and possibility. They offer a window into the dawn of human consciousness, revealing a species capable of reflection, creativity, and social cohesion. And yet, despite these remarkable achievements, the true meaning of many symbols remains shrouded in mystery, leaving us with a lingering sense of wonder and suspense. What secrets did these early humans encode in their art? What wisdom, strategy, or insight was lost with the passage of time, and how might it have shaped the course of survival for those who came after? The emergence of symbolic thought and culture is thus a profound turning point in the story of humanity. It bridges survival and consciousness, instinct and intelligence, danger and hope. It shows that humans are not merely biological survivors but creatures capable of imagination, reflection, and meaning-making. It foreshadows the complex societies, technologies, and civilizations that would arise millions of years later. And as we consider the cave walls, burial sites, and artifacts left behind, we realize that each mark, each gesture, each ritual is a whisper across time, a reminder that survival was never just about hunting, gathering, or fleeing predators. It was about creating a world, understanding it, and leaving a trace, however small, that could endure across generations. In this way, the art, ritual, and symbolic expression of early humans carry a timeless resonance. They teach us that even in the harshest, most dangerous environments, the human mind and spirit strive to create, to understand, and to connect. These acts of symbolic thought were tools of survival as much as they were expressions of consciousness, and they form the foundation of everything that followed. They are the echoes of lives lived in courage, fear, and ingenuity, inviting us to imagine, to wonder, and to reflect on the extraordinary journey of our species. And as we step back from these ancient traces, we are left with an enduring question, one that fuels both scholarly inquiry and human curiosity alike. What truths about survival, society, and the human mind lie hidden in the symbols and rituals of our distant ancestors, waiting still to be discovered? Amid the relentless struggle for survival, early humans began to reveal something unexpected, a spark of creativity, of imagination, a sense of something beyond the immediate fight for life. Cave walls, bones, and primitive artifacts hint at the emergence of symbolic thought, a capacity not just to survive, but to understand, to communicate, and perhaps even to hope. Imagine a group huddled in the dim flicker of a fire, their hands smeared with ochre as one among them traces a crude yet deliberate pattern on the stone wall. Each stroke is more than decoration, it is a message, a ritual, a silent testament to consciousness and reflection. These marks whisper across millennia, telling us that even in the harshest environments, the human mind sought meaning, expression, and connection. Burials, too, suggest a profound awareness of life, death, and perhaps an afterlife. Some skeletons reveal carefully positioned bodies, grave goods placed with care, as though the living were trying to communicate with the dead, or to honor them. Such acts humanize these distant ancestors in ways that stone tools and hunting stories alone cannot. We can imagine the emotions surrounding these rituals: grief, fear, reverence, and even hope. These early humans were not merely biological survivors, they were creatures capable of reflection, mourning, and storytelling, layering meaning onto the raw struggle for survival. Yet these cultural and symbolic acts also carried tension and mystery. The purpose of some cave paintings, for instance, remains debated. Are they spiritual? Did they record hunts, commemorate victories, or serve as warnings? Every new discovery teases a story, but leaves us with tantalizing gaps, fragments of a mental landscape that is forever partly obscured. Some markings hint at knowledge lost to time, secrets that may have influenced survival strategies, social cohesion, or even early conflicts. Every symbol, every arrangement of stones, is a breadcrumb in a labyrinth of human thought, beckoning researchers and viewers alike to decipher its meaning. These creative acts may have been deeply entwined with survival itself. Rituals, storytelling, and symbolic communication could strengthen social bonds, transmit knowledge, and foster cooperation in ways that pure instinct could not. We can imagine an elder teaching the young through dramatized retellings of past hunts or near-fatal encounters, weaving lessons into stories that enthrall and instruct simultaneously. The emotional depth of these interactions, fear, triumph, loyalty, betrayal, provided not only cultural continuity but a psychological edge, enhancing cohesion and resilience in the face of a perilous world. As we explore these early expressions of art and ritual, we are drawn into a world that is intimate yet mysterious. The human drive to create, to understand, and to leave a mark appears almost instinctual, rising alongside the struggle for mere survival. By the end of this section, the viewer is left with a haunting thought: these symbolic traces may carry messages about lives, fears, and knowledge lost to time. They hint at intelligence and emotional depth that shaped the course of human history, leaving us to wonder, what secrets of survival, strategy, and society lie encoded in the art and rituals of our distant ancestors, still waiting to be discovered. As the dawn of mankind fades further into the mists of time, the shadows of our earliest ancestors stretch across the landscape of human history, shaping not just our biology, but the very essence of what it means to be human. The story of survival is not merely a tale of endurance against predators or the harshness of nature, it is a testament to creativity, ingenuity, and the relentless will to endure in a world that offered no guarantees. Imagine a cold, windswept plain, where a small group huddles around a flickering fire, their faces marked with soot and sweat. Each flicker of flame illuminates hands that carve stone tools with painstaking care, hands that will become the foundation of generations to come. Each spark carries the weight of knowledge, the quiet accumulation of strategies honed over millennia, strategies that allowed humans to transform from vulnerable creatures into the dominant species on the planet. These are not abstract ideas, they are tangible, visceral traces of intelligence, effort, and survival instinct, etched into the very fabric of existence. The biological legacy of survival is evident in every aspect of humanity. Traits such as problem-solving, cooperation, foresight, and adaptability were not mere conveniences, they were the difference between life and death. Early humans had to navigate a world teeming with dangers, fierce predators, deadly diseases, and unforgiving climates. Each decision they made, from where to hunt to how to store food, carried immense risk. One miscalculation could mean starvation or death, not just for the individual, but for the entire group. In this crucible of constant threat, the human brain evolved to handle complexity and uncertainty, to read subtle cues in the environment, and to anticipate outcomes before they occurred. Survival demanded ingenuity at every turn, a relentless mental engagement with a hostile world that shaped cognition in ways we are only beginning to understand. The ability to strategize, to plan for the future, to imagine scenarios before they unfolded, became an indispensable part of life, and it is this ability that continues to define the human mind today. But the human story is not merely one of cleverness and adaptation, it is also deeply emotional. Survival was inseparable from relationships, from the bonds formed within a group that allowed individuals to care for one another, to share knowledge, and to teach the next generation. We can imagine the quiet dramas that unfolded around a fire, an elder carefully instructing a child on how to recognize edible plants or track prey, a mother comforting a sick infant while others hunt, a grieving tribe member mourning the loss of a companion to illness or predator. These moments humanize the distant past, reminding us that our ancestors experienced fear, joy, hope, and despair just as we do. Every act of care, every gesture of teaching, every decision to protect one another was an act of survival that went beyond instinct, it was a testament to empathy, foresight, and the social intelligence that allowed communities to endure. In essence, survival was never just physical, it was profoundly social, emotional, and psychological. Yet survival was never guaranteed, and the shadow of mortality loomed over every human endeavor. The fossil record is punctuated by the evidence of struggle, healed fractures that tell stories of resilience, bones bearing signs of disease that silently claimed lives, and mass graves that hint at catastrophe, conflict, or epidemics. For every life preserved in the archaeological record, countless others vanished, leaving behind only fragments that hint at the depth of their experience. These absences are haunting, like ghostly whispers of lives cut short, reminding us that the human journey has always been a delicate balance between endurance and extinction. Each success, each adaptation, was hard-won, often coming at a profound cost. For every hunter who brought food back to the tribe, there was another who fell to a predator, a disease, or the unforgiving elements, and their stories, though largely lost, shaped the survival strategies of those who remained. The human legacy is also cultural, etched in art, ritual, and symbolic thought. Early humans used cave walls, bones, and tools not only to manipulate the world but to leave traces of meaning and understanding. These symbols communicated knowledge, fears, hopes, and warnings across generations. The first markings on a cave wall were more than decoration, they were deliberate acts of thought and expression, windows into consciousness. Rituals and burials suggest reverence for life and death, acts of recognition that the individual and the collective mattered beyond mere survival. Storytelling, whether through spoken word, gestures, or symbolic representations, became a vessel for knowledge, lessons about hunting, dangers, and social cohesion. These cultural innovations were survival mechanisms as much as they were expressions of intelligence, enabling early humans to navigate not only the natural world but the social complexities of life in groups. Knowledge became portable, stored in minds, in objects, and in the subtle acts that transmitted wisdom from one generation to the next. But the story is not one of unbroken triumph. Every advancement came with risk. Intelligence and foresight could be turned to cunning and cruelty, cooperation could be undermined by jealousy or violence, survival itself demanded constant vigilance. Archaeological evidence hints at early human conflict, fights over territory, resources, or dominance, showing that our ancestors were not always united in the face of adversity. The very traits that allowed humans to endure, planning, strategy, and cooperation, could also make them formidable adversaries to one another. Life, even within a small tribe, was a precarious balance, where loyalty and betrayal were intertwined, where ingenuity could both save and endanger. This duality, the potential for both creation and destruction, has been embedded in the human story from its earliest chapters and continues to echo throughout history. The scale of time adds another layer of awe and suspense. Millions of years passed, countless generations rose and fell, and yet, amidst the chaos, patterns of survival and adaptation emerge. Early humans developed tools, tamed fire, created shelter, and nurtured the young, all while contending with predators, disease, and the whims of climate. Each generation built upon the knowledge of the previous, accumulating wisdom that allowed the human species to not just survive, but eventually thrive in diverse and extreme environments. And yet, the fragility of life remained ever present. Every stone tool, every hearth, every fossil is a silent witness to the precariousness of existence, a reminder that survival was never guaranteed and that the story of humanity is as much about loss as it is about triumph. As we reflect on this vast journey, we begin to see that survival was both a practical and moral enterprise. Early humans were not merely reacting to threats, they were constantly making choices that required judgment, foresight, and emotional intelligence. The decision to care for the weak, to share scarce resources, to protect the tribe, all were acts that defined the social fabric of human life. And yet, alongside these acts of compassion, there were decisions that reflected fear, competition, and the darker sides of intelligence. The interplay of cooperation and conflict, empathy and survival instinct, courage and caution, created a complex mosaic that underpins the human story. It is this intricate balance that allowed our ancestors to endure where so many others perished, shaping the characteristics that continue to define humanity today. By the time we reach the present, the echoes of the dawn of mankind resonate in every aspect of our existence. Our capacity for abstract thought, for problem solving, for empathy, and for creativity, all owe a debt to those early humans who walked perilous landscapes millions of years ago. Every adaptation, every clever strategy, every act of care or defiance is embedded in the genetic and cultural heritage we inherit. And yet, the story remains incomplete, mysterious, and compelling. Fossils, tools, and cave paintings offer glimpses, but much is left to interpretation, imagination, and speculation. The questions persist. What did they know that we cannot fully comprehend? How did they navigate the moral and social complexities of survival? Which lessons were lost, and which survived to shape our future? In the end, the legacy of survival is both a triumph and a haunting reminder of fragility. Early humans endured not because the world was kind, but because they were extraordinary in their ingenuity, resilience, and adaptability. They faced predators, disease, famine, and one another, yet forged communities, developed knowledge, and left traces of their existence for us to discover millions of years later. Their story is written in bones, in stone, in fire, and in the imagination that allows us to reconstruct their lives. And as we contemplate this vast expanse of time, we recognize a truth both humbling and awe-inspiring. The human journey has always been a delicate balance between survival and extinction, a testament to courage, creativity, and the enduring spirit that continues to define us. Every footprint, every mark, every artifact whispers a story, and in listening closely, we can feel the heartbeat of humanity echoing across the ages, reminder that even in the harshest circumstances, life, curious, tenacious, and ingenious, finds a way to endure.